Alright, so you saw the last video, you know where I am. I'm just packing up my equipment here, but I should state quickly, as I've ventured out from the Orleans district, I can confirm that yes, I am noticing that there is still a plethora of just wild fruit growing at different points in the suburbs, or in even certain sections of the more bustling, like skyscraper-heavy sectors of, well, Ottawa. And I think I was wrong. I think I was wrong about the berries that were growing outside of the Indigo store in Orleans. I don't think they were elderberries. Well, I said they could either have been elderberries, blueberries, or maybe like humbleberries or something. These, though, from what I've seen online, actually more closely resemble elderberries, which are edible. Now, obviously, I'm not going to pick these and eat them because I don't know for sure if they are elderberries, but they are just a wild fruit growing in the suburbs of Ottawa. And this is more of a suburbial area. There are some apartment buildings around here, but not a terrible amount. But also, as I just got up from my sleeping bag here, look what I just so happened to find literally right underneath me, like right underneath my ass when I got up. My glasses! I believe I said in the Made It to Ottawa video that the one thing that I had just forgotten to grab and I'd left at my relative's cottage before I left was my glasses, and I was just like, yeah, fuck it, I don't fully need them, which I really don't. They're really just to help me read better from a distance. But fucking open that up. I literally got into the sleeping bag not knowing or feeling that they were in there. And yeah, when I got up, I was like, what the hell? Were they must have been in there the whole time. Like my whole coming up here even to Ottawa. Yeah. Okay. Today is starting a little better than, well, my time right now is getting a little better, and it's better than, right now, it's better than what last night was, for the most part. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna pack up my stuff and get moving. There's a whole row outside of this hospital of what appeared to be elderberries. Or it just at least seems that a lot of elderberry trees growing in the surrounding area to this hospital. Huh. Again, it's seeming to be that Ottawa is just full of luscious fruit, or hopefully luscious. Unless these are poisonous, then don't eat them. But they look like elderberries, but I'm not sure. So, find out first if you actually decide to eat them. Alright, so I'm down a ways past, well, from where I was at the hospital. I'm at the intersection of St. Laurent and Smythe Road. I just stopped to get something to eat at a restaurant behind me here, and I noticed that there's a very interestingly placed, on the map it said a monument to I don't know what. I mean, well, what does that say? Ingenium. I think that's meant to be pronounced ingenium, not ingenium. Okay, that, I don't know if I'm close by to like the Canadian Museum of Technologies and Science. I don't know if that's if that's part of it, but it's got this lighthouse just statue. I don't know, actually. That could very well be, you might be able to actually walk inside that little mini lighthouse. I don't know. And then there's you can see behind this big ass yellow transport truck, there's a actual, that doesn't even look like a recreated statue, that looks like a decommissioned, point the right direction, goddammit. Looks like a decommissioned steam-powered train. One of the old-style trains, not like the more modernized kind, like bullet trains, or not Not like more, just gas, well, there are gas-powered trains, but you get what I mean, like the ones where you shovel the coal into the actual furnaces to get the steam power going and all that. I'm not a locomotive engineer. I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know why that's there, but, looks neat. It's very cool. In fact, before I go walking over to the strip club, which is down that way, which, yes, I'm actually going to today, because I'm not gonna... Okay, I'm not gonna just give up on that after last night. I'm actually going down there to see if I can talk to someone. And also, I should clarify. Actually, I should also first say the name of the strip club. This strip club is called the Nuden. It's apparently one of the most well-known strip clubs in Ottawa, at least from what I'm reading. And there's no particular reason why well, there's no major reason in terms of... Anyway, there's no, like, really particular reason why I'm picking that one to go to first, other than that it's close to... Well, I've mainly been staying in the Orleans district, so it's the closest one on the map. It's the closest one to Orleans, which actually I believe I can take this road, and this is Smythe Road. It turns into a road called Innes Road that is the one that runs directly through. Descend. God, that bus scared the living fuck out of me. Runs. Yeah, that is loud. It runs directly through the center of well, Orleans. So that's one of the main reasons why. But first, I think I'm going to actually get a closer shot of that. It looks interesting to me. Okay, so you can actually... Wow, these are really... What the... Oh, nearly slipped. These are really tightly... These are really thin stairs. Like, really... It's really compact against the wall. So you can actually walk... I'm just squeezing through here. You can walk up onto this little... Well, this friggin' lighthouse, literally just smack in the middle... Or just in Ottawa. By the way, I still don't know what district this is. Gotta find that out. So, I left my stuff over there. Yeah, this is pretty damn cool. Not gonna attempt to open this because as you can tell, can't do it without probably breaking at least 2 laws, which I don't really care to break right now. Yeah, nice stonework here too. Damn it, okay. Hey, sorry. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. Well, I was wrong. Oh. Okay. Well, now it's very clear to me that I've really just been just moving my sleeping bag lying around. Well, I gotta keep close around on that. Well, that was a quickly resolved hot pursuit. Yeah, so somebody just tried to make way with my sleeping bag and blanket. I'm not mad at them overly, like, they didn't put up a fight or anything to give it back to me. So they must have just, well, I'm assuming that they assumed that someone had left it there. But anyway, yeah, this is just a legit refurbished and repainted, or at least it looks like it was repainted, steam-powered train. Neat. Okay, back to going that way. Alright, just gonna move on. So my phone did not have much time to charge while I was getting some food in that restaurant over there, sadly. But I feel it is enough that if I talk relatively quickly, I can get some things out that I want to discuss. So, in relation to stuff I've been thinking about in my head recently, I've been really thinking a lot about double standards, or what is considered societally to be, or like scientifically, I guess I should say more so, in terms of someone's belief systems, to be a double standard. Sorry. Really did not hear them. So, I'm gonna say this right now, because I've actually been thinking about this a lot more recently. A lot of times we talk about, or people, and this includes myself, talk about double standards pretty well almost always in like a negative context, like to mean something that is unfoundedly it's one way for a certain thing, but it's another way for something similar when there's no reason for it to be. That's what it's mainly associated with. The more I think about it, and this relates to, I guess it came about because of my whole problems. I started feeling that a lot of things became contradictory in terms of, well, how a lot of the world is and how human behavior seems to be. But I started thinking, double standard technically doesn't have to be like bad or negative, at least in certain regards, because sadly, well, I mean, this just is a matter of fact, at least as far as I'm concerned, there are some things that function one way but don't function the same way the other way around, even if they're similar. Now, that can get into, and I know people can use this, absolutely use this, like, use this for, like, arguing for really terrible things, or, like, using it to create, like, using it as a point in a flawed, like, concept, like, during an argument or something. Which, yes, is, well, I don't think that can be controlled, sadly. Yes, people manipulate. That's, I've said that, I think, in many regards quite a few times now. But, is there anyone coming? Nope. Cross here. And then I'm gonna wait here. Should I cross? Yeah, why not? Okay. Sorry. So, we use it in a more negative connotation. But really there are some things that are, well, similar but don't have the same way of functioning. And okay, like, so what I'm saying is I don't think a double standard is inherently, like, always negative. Unfounded, like, baseless double standards, like, that have no proof towards them, yes, I think are absolutely ridiculous. But okay, what's an example I could use? say, God, I'm trying to think here. I just had it in my head a few minutes ago. Okay, here, I'll use an analogy, I guess, with, capitalism. Here's one argument that could be brought up, which I think is flawed, but people can use this whole, like, double standards aren't always negative thing in a really unfounded way, like really a way that isn't, they can misinterpret what I mean by it, I guess. Say someone says, well, we humans have are more individual in many ways, and yes, we have selfless tendencies, but overall we're more individualist, and therefore that is a reason for capitalism to be implemented in an economic system. Or they could say, well, what's another one that relates to it? I guess people could say, well, art, something like art is interpretive, inherently interpretive. Well, they just say people can interpret art different ways, so I feel that something like capitalism, or let's say fascism, or neoliberalism can be interpreted and used different ways. Well, the used part, I guess, somewhat. Well, not entirely. Like, if you're using it in a different way than what is dictated, then that's really not actually the ideology. You're pretty much putting your own spin on it. But, well, yeah, unless most of the principles that you're following are dictated by the philosophy or ideology. If not, then you're really just doing your own thing. So, okay, people can say, so I interpret it this way, or there are things that are interpretive, or most of these things are interpretive, so anyone can really interpret something a different way. Well, the thing with that is, income and finance isn't interpretive. It's what is set up to actually help negotiate trade. It's not, there's no way to really interpret it. It's what is set up and is supposed to be maintained in many regards to a specific, way that something is deemed to be working so that it functions well. Like, what you're being paid is not interpretive. Like, if you're being paid $15 an hour and you're struggling financially to actually make ends meet because of it, not being able to buy enough food for your household and things like that, or water, or basic goods and necessities. Well, if your employer says, well, I interpreted you as striving for your wealth, and you're really putting in your effort to show that how much you love your family. Well, on the one hand, what you're doing, yes, could be, but that still doesn't mean what you're paying them is interpretive. It's not. You're still paying them a very low wage that they cannot live off of. That's not interpretive. That's a direct thing that affects everyone's life. Whereas something like art, let's say, is interpretive because there's not always one clear message that can be portrayed, and it's not in the immediate. Art is something that can, again, in terms of economy, can be bought, sold, produced, all that. But in terms of its like, I guess I'll say existentialist meaning, it's interpretive. Like, how it exists within its natural form, I guess. Because of the human mind, because everyone can interpret something a different way, and, well, what is being shown to them in a different way from their perception. But money and how much you have isn't exactly interpretive. Even though, yeah, you're not controlling how much is being distributed, like on a economic scale, you're still being affected by it in the immediate. Whereas art could maybe affect you psychologically, but it's not going to physically affect you, at least for the most part, unless someone interprets it in a very, well, if they become obsessed with an art piece, then that can be different. But what I'm saying is, like, double standards aren't inherently negative. Are many double standards negative in my opinion? Yeah, they are. But I'm more concerned, I guess, now looking, because I've even said this before, but I guess I just didn't really, not on here I don't think, but just in like talking with people in my life, I don't think I really paid much thought to it. Is I care more, it's kind of like how I say, like, I care more about over fetishization and over sexualization for things relating to, well, sexual arousal than actually just something being sexualized or fetishized. I care about doing it over to an excessive extent or an encroaching extent. Oh god, my phone is dying rapidly. So I care more about, like, baseless double standards than just something being a double standard, if you know what I mean. I hope that that probably wasn't one of my better analogies, like what I was trying to, the examples I was trying to give, but I think you get what I mean. Maybe I didn't use the right, maybe I didn't, like, use the right example, but maybe you can agree with, like, the point I was trying to make. Also, speaking of which, I should say, I should probably clarify something that because I said this in my last video, and also the using children as commodification, and also the over-obsession of youthful beauty video. I talked about how just because someone is wearing something more revealing in terms of skin doesn't mean it's sexual, or that they're trying to be sexual with it, or that they're wanting of sex, which is absolutely true in my opinion. They don't. That bus sounds like it is farting, not gonna lie. Sounds like it just ripped a big one. Anyway, just because, here, let me set this down for a sec, because I'm gonna have to, like, put this in my pocket and charge it anyway. I'm almost there. Anyway, I'm almost to the Nuden strip club. I'll just give a bit of a shot around here. So, I should say, though, that, like I said, I gave the example of how, like, someone could be walking around completely naked and just having fun being nude at whatever age, and that doesn't make it sexual. Or that doesn't mean they're wanting of sex. More so. But that doesn't mean, I should clarify, that doesn't mean that you can't be, like, because I do believe that people have, like, physical, can be, like, are attracted to physical beauty. Do I think it should matter overall above everything else? No, I think it really should matter last. But it is a part in it, or it can be a part in it. So I'm not saying that you can't be attracted to physical beauty. I'm personally attracted to physical beauty too, but it's not what I consider to be most important in a romantic or sexual relation, or just in a friendship, or just talking with anyone, or being companions with someone, or even just anything. I think the purpose of something should be the most important thing, not how it looks for the most part. But so you can be physically attracted to someone being naked. Like, you can be physically attracted to that and are, like, physically aroused by it, but it doesn't mean that they are trying to be sexual with it, or that they're wanting you to be using it, like, if it's a
form of art that has nudity in it but isn't meant to be sexually arousing, it doesn't mean that the intent is for you to start wanking off to it. Or if someone's physically nude near you, that doesn't mean that they want you to be, well, flirtatious with them or start encroaching upon them. That's what I mean. Like, if, like for example, like in terms of people, like men or anyone with masculine genitalia, the people with masculine genitalia cannot, and this is like a biological fact, cannot control when they get erections. They can't, or at least if someone can, then they have a very special ability, a very unique ability to have finite control over, or they have a more fine-tuned control over what is a neuromuscular response to what someone is perceiving as being sexually attractive. Like, but people with masculine genitalia can't control that overall. They really can't. But, and also it doesn't mean that someone who has a dick, or anything that's capable of having an erection, just because they get an erection doesn't mean that they are wanting of sex or that it's meant to be sexual. And also, there's something called, at least I logically feel, in human nature, well, even if some people can't seem to control it, there are others who logically I feel can, unless they're just putting on a performance. But people have something called self-control. Like, so if you see someone naked with who you know, or that maybe you like even romantically, or just or platonically intimate with them at points, or just intimate in some way physically, that doesn't mean just because they are naked they want you to come on to them, basically. And okay, here's the way I guess I could best put it in terms of like having a consentful relationship. Unless something is like, say, art that's made specifically for sexual arousal, if you are participating in said art piece, like pornography, strip dancing, like one-on-one, or prostitution, or just in a relationship of any kind, a romantic relationship, platonically sexual relationship. Here's the best way I can put it. Someone could be physically naked in front of you. They could be acting very, like, sexually or promiscuously. Well, not technically. Promiscuous can apply to a lot of things, but someone could be very sexually promiscuous, like, say, someone like myself. Someone could be acting sexual in front of you, and they could literally just be masturbating their brains out in front of you, and you, as an individual, in my opinion, morally, still should not have the legal right, one, or at the very least you shouldn't be able, you have no right, in my opinion, to touch them without them giving absolute affirmative verbal consent. Or even if they're mute and they can't speak and they use sign language as their main form of communication, until they give you actual communicative consent, you have no, or priorly established consent to this scenario, then you have no right to touch them, in my opinion. So I guess that's a way you can look at it. And I guess that relates in some form to double standards, but for some things. But anyway, you get what I mean. I'm gonna get to where I want to be. I'm gonna charge my phone as much as I can, and then we'll see what comes of this. Nothing may come of it, I don't know. Okay, I made it. Not even looking at the camera. Yeah. So this is the Nuden strip club. It's in a more industrialized area. There's a lot more factories around here and warehouses, but there is some small shopping plazas that you can see across the road. And well, right now I'm just sitting here charging my phone quick. It started to drizzle a bit, just like it did earlier this morning when I recorded the ending bit of the last video. But, well, not gonna lie, I'm kind of nervous. Not because of like, it's not because of me thinking the place may be dangerous or anything. I don't exactly, for as much as I research this line of work, and very much, I believe that there are good and beneficial things in it, and it can be done well. I don't exactly know how I'm gonna ask this. Like, I don't know. Here's something school will never prepare you for, at least systemically, anyway. Maybe your individual teacher will, I don't know. But, never prepare you for... They talk about all this, like, writing fancy resumes and being properly dressed for, like, the interview, and when you go in an interview, how to behave and things like that. Very much problematically, in my opinion. But one thing it seems that they leave out is they never actually teach you how to ask for a job, which in my opinion really there isn't a way. You just have to scope it out and ask in your own way. I mean, you can try being more polite and things like that, or being more just like upfront, or I don't want to bother you and things like that. I mean, that's just me speaking from my personality, but yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna ask this. I'm looking at the building now, and the back end looks a little condemned, but I'm not judging the actual. I'm not going to judge what's inside of it based on how it actually looks. There are a lot of my views of global free market. There's a lot of small businesses that don't have any funding for themselves to repair their actual facilities, or, as in my opinion, government funding. There are many targeted demographics or businesses that, well, the government does not pour funding into them, their infrastructure in their communities. But anyway, oh, hey, well, actually, there's a double standard right there, I guess, somewhat. I literally just talk about how you shouldn't technically judge things based on how they look. You shouldn't judge it based on appearance, and that same, in my opinion, goes for the most part buildings and locations just based on how they look. But yet we judge our surroundings like based on like how much visibility there is in light, like say like the light on the buildings or stuff, or if it's pitch black, if it's pitch dark out, and basically if like something's consumed in total blackness in an area, like casting a giant shadow, we judge it to be like, oh, we got to be cautious going through there because we can't see it. It distorts our ocular senses. So yeah, there's a double standard right there for you. At least it seems to be one. So like for the most part, not judging things based on how they look, but yet for that specific thing to judge it based on how it looks, because, well, it distorts our senses. We actually can't see very well unless we have special equipment to see in the dark. We're not adapted to have night vision of any kind. Like, we're more senses for like total darkness. Well, your senses, other senses can take over, like for you in terms of like other than sight. Like we know this, like in terms of people who have vision issues or are completely blind, other senses of theirs take over, like hearing, smell, touch, taste. They all take over, and they're able to actually generate mental imagery through that in many regards, or get an idea in their head of what it may look like, in many regards accurate to real life. Well, not real life, accurate to what it looks like to someone who can actually see with their ocular senses. But yeah, that's I guess that's a double standard. Also, there's got to be, in one of these places, I'm really hoping that there's like a store that is selling like mobility aid, like wagons and things like that, or just have mobility aid things. Not because I need help walking, just, again, I mentioned in, well, I believe it was either both the last two videos or the video before the last one, when I was first entering the downtown area, that I would really like a basket with wheels to try and lug that around with me when I'm not going to be in the Orleans district. So yeah, we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna let my phone get charged. The club doesn't look too busy right now. I'm assuming it's maybe gonna get busy closer to, like, when it gets much darker out, like when much more nightfall hits. So yeah, keep putting my thumb in front of the damn lens. I don't know how this is gonna go. We'll find out. Okay. Oh, yes, and I also should mention, the only reason in the last video I was actually recording when I got into the ambulance, to go to the hospital with the paramedics, not giving any context to that here, go watch that video, was because just in case something were to happen. It was the same reason for, well, the kidnapping in Toronto. In case something were to happen, either if the paramedics tried to manipulate me in any sort of way, which in my opinion most medical professionals don't, but there are also many who do. I'd say more so police are very manipulative than medical and psychiatric workers, and also the same goes for, I'd say fire patrol are much less encroaching and manipulative than police, but overall. But so I recorded just in case something were to happen, or if something were to happen to me, like if I was to pass out or anything. But okay. Yeah, let's see what comes of this. Okay, so that was easier than I anticipated it was going to be. Okay, no, I didn't get, so I haven't gotten the job yet as a performer or waiter or cook in the kitchen at the Nuden strip club over there, which actually apparently when I was psyching myself up to walk in there, I thought that this entire thing was just, I thought the entrance to the club was in the front, well, on the side here, over here, but no, apparently that is an adult, well, it's a sex shop, it's a sex toy shop, that they have on the side of it, and that part over there, with the point to the right direction, with a giant non-luminescent O, or just this side of the building that looks more run down, or it looks just vacated and tarnished. That I'm assuming is the old entrance to what is called the Obsession Lounge. I guess I saw a bit of it from the back, back. I guess this is only that side of the store. The one I was just pointing at is only the front for the sex shop. The actual entrance to the club is from here, what would be considered around the back, the other edge of behind this wall of the building. When I got back there, I was wondering, because it was getting later, like, why are there no cars showing up to what was, I thought, the front there, and then when I went back there, I was like, oh yeah, that's a lot more cars. That's what I was actually expecting. Anyway, I don't know what the Obsession Lounge is, unless it's for VIP dances or just a patio that you can sit on and just relax. But the entrance to that is also in the back, where the club entrance is. But anyway, no, I did not get hired yet. So what I did was, I walked into the sex shop, the sex toy shop. I asked one of the employees there, who was incredibly friendly and nice, where the actual entrance to the club was, because I didn't actually, like I said, I didn't know. I thought that was the entrance. Also, stupidly, completely just neglecting the fact that there's a different sign over top of those doors. I just thought it would, whatever. I didn't pay much attention to it at the moment, so they directed me just to the back of the building. And I also asked where would I find specifically the management to speak to, and they gave me the names of the people I could try and talk to. They didn't say specifically like where in the club, but when I actually got in there, which again, I was nervous to, maybe I'm starting to think maybe this would be, I guess, some form of societal trauma, I guess. Maybe that's ironically instilled in me, even though maybe for some reason I actually somewhat have internalized the stigma that, well, places like this are more dangerous and or more sexually predatorial. Yeah, predatorial. That's the word. Pretty sure. That there's more predatory behavior in this industry most often, which again, I logically say that's not everyone, and even if there is more than other forms of entertainment, that can be said, that can happen from a multitude of things. One sector of an industry has more problematic issues with it, unfortunately, than another. And those problematic issues in pertaining to sexual violence sadly happen all over the entertainment industry. Anyway, despite my research and love for the art form, maybe that was part of my nervousness, but mainly I'm attributing it to the fact that I just didn't know how to ask. So, but anyway, I walked in. They have a metal detector in there. It sounded briefly just because of my tripod. And I talked to the booth manager, or the booth attendant, for payment to get in, I believe. Well, obviously you can give money to the performers, or at least most you can give money to the performers. I don't know if this one runs the same. I'll have to check it out. And though, unfortunately, there's also, with sex work, unfortunately, there's barely any unionization in the world, except for in some parts of Europe, which even then it's pretty lackluster. But if it's anything like waitering, which I have not done yet personally, but know of in the culinary arts industry from my own research and actually having now worked in it, well, people who are service attendants in terms of like bringing out food and things like that heavily rely on tips. I knew this before, again, not just from working in the restaurant job I had. They heavily rely on tips, well, to make a larger portion in many chains, or at least, well, many restaurant chains. Not even chains, sometimes just single businesses or small businesses. They rely on, very generous tips to make a certain percentage of what accounts for their wage. So, which is from what I know of it, the logic is this amount is covered, but this other amount, the way I guess it would be worded, is that it is paid back to the employee through tipping services, or maybe like, unless tipping is mandatory, which it's not, I don't even think personally, from my moral stance, that it really, again, the way the world is now, really should be mandatory. Because again, I'm speaking from the perspective of actually trying to maintain well enough redistribution of wealth. But anyway, yeah, so a large percentage of their payment comes through tips. In some regards, it's similar in the strip dance industry, where, well, again, this, unless the actual club is, sorry, there's just a delivery vehicle that's just rolling out beside me. Unless the actual business is engaging in what again, if you're going off of God, my dissociation again. Might be from how much I've been walking around today, I guess, and the amount of layers I have on. I'm not cold right now, actually. It's not because of the cold this time. I actually feel fine enough, even with just layers of short sleeves in terms of shirts on. Anyway, unless they're engaging in what would be considered criminal activity by this country's laws, and also well, what would be not indoctrinated in capitalism, no. I guess in some form it would be dictated in the principles of, well, going against somewhat of a democratic principle, I guess. Not entirely, but somewhat. Well, I guess the whole... Well, I guess this is it's a liberal standpoint, I guess, in terms of capitalism, would be the whole equal pay for equal work thing, which in regards I obviously do believe, but I don't think it should just be for what is technically equal work. But anyway, unless the club is actually, or the owners of the club are like disobeying the law of payment for like the percentage that it has to be paid to the performers, and just letting them live off of tips, well, then in my opinion that's disgusting. But it's very disgusting. I'm sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. What the hell? One moment, please. Got it. Okay, I actually got it. Goddamn. Really hate brain fog. It is somewhat, with the whole tipping service thing, similar to like waiter service. Strip performing, it can be somewhat similar. I don't know, especially here in Canada, if the like mandatory minimum pay, well, not minimum wage, but mandatory pay, like the percentage that it has to be paid to the performers, is higher on average than that of waiters. But well, I should probably look into that just before I further apply to this. Anyway, so unless the employers are actually breaking what is dictated in Canadian law, at least, for some form of percentage being paid to them by the actual
establishment, well, then some amount I would be making, like, from them, and others would be gained through tips. So yeah, let's hope I can swoon a perverted old man's heart. No. But anyway, so I didn't, like I've said now quite a few times, I didn't get the job. The booth attendant told me that the person who is mainly in charge of the hiring process, well, they're there between usually between Friday and Sunday, all day for the most part. So, well, today's Wednesday, so come back then. He told me that you should come back then with your resume, what experience you've had. Well, right now I can tell them for sure absolutely none, other than just dancing naked in my room or in my underwear. That's the most practice I've had. When I had in households of mine, places that I have stayed and lived, you know what I mean. That's the only real technical experience I've had. Though I will say everybody was very polite, very nice, very attentive, and well, to what I was asking. And yeah, the one thing though that was little, just at least from, because at first the booth attendant was like talking to me about like if I was gonna be going in, I need to leave my backpack with them and the tripod, because they don't allow baggy clothes to go in, or they don't allow things that could clothes that could maybe be have more ability to conceal, like hidden weaponry or objects, to be worn in the club. That is the dress code in terms of like customer attire, which again, they have the right to mandate that. It's a little iffy, but anyway, well, in the business they have the right to mandate that, at least as far as I'm concerned, for the most part. Though again, I feel that anyone deserves, at least in public, let's just say for now, they should be able to wear what they want to wear. But I get the reasoning behind that, even though I disagree with it, in certain regards. But anyway, what was a little concerning to me was the fact that they didn't ask my age, but not just for me like wanting a job, but to go, not well. Yes, to go in, it was a bit like, you probably should have, which I didn't end up going in. I just wanted to see if the managerial staff was there, so oh well. But anyway, that was a little what's the right word? Concerning, yeah, but not, well, obviously I don't think they meant, they were very, the booth worker was very, they were very much on guard. They would, at least from what it looked like on initial impressions, like they were very good at what they were doing, it seemed, in the moment I was there talking with them. But
So not so much for going in, but it did especially more concern me that they didn't ask my age, for the fact that I said I would like to work here, essentially, if there was any job openings here. But well, I mean, I guess, and again, this isn't a good thing to do. Physically, you shouldn't assume people's ages, in my opinion. I talk about ageism in terms of intellectual maturity. That is one, and I'm still very much am absolutely for that. I don't believe that there's any number to mental maturity. There is, however, a number to physical maturity, so maybe they just didn't ask because of how, I mean, I'm daunting a bit of a beard, so maybe now I look a little older than I actually am, which to me, I guess it's more if I shave, I look maybe to other people younger than I actually am, because I've gotten that a lot more than looking older than I actually am. But anyway, it wasn't anything that caught me, like, that really rung alarm bells for me. But I'll keep an eye on it, obviously. And again, it's not because they are, it's not solely because they're a sex work business. That's not why. It's just any business whatever the work you're doing is, I think you should, if you know what is supposed to be, well, if you know just how to watch out for manipulative tactics in that industry, then you should watch out for them, because unfortunately it is true that this doesn't even like apply to, again, sex work. In terms of sexual manipulation and exploitation, that can happen in any industry, absolutely any industry. It does happen rampantly in multitude of industries. So, but anyway, it's just for one that specifically was in regards to it. Well, actually, in terms of, again, questioning my morals, I do have, I've already said that for certain things, I think children should, like, they can demonstrate, if they demonstrate their mental capacity to understand something, they can be able to help out with certain forms of work, and also, or give ideas for certain forms of work, and actually put their input in, and the input should be validated, in my opinion, if it's actually potentially helpful. But in terms of like physical labor, well, this is, I guess, another thing I've been thinking of is the whole child labor laws. And yes, even though I don't agree with it for sexual practices, there are some things that people who are younger than 18, or people even younger than what I would consider for, like I've talked about how I do think there should be close in age range consent options for people between 13 and 22, no more, with someone who's no more than 2 years of your age, and starting at 15, no less than 2 years of your age, but at least in some form. But which I'm actually gonna say that if they do want to take me on, what my limitations will be with them, which I will make clear to them. Anyway, in terms of child labor laws, this is where it gets a little iffy for me, because already we hire, in terms of other industries such as retail work, restaurateur work, farming and agricultural work. In that one is, again, it's certain regards, but that's really more with like family-owned farms. The thing is, we already hired teenagers of the ages, at least in Canada, legally, and in many parts of the world, which I think, if they're able to handle it, is fine for them to do. I started at, well, they hire them usually around at 14 to 15 era, or at least legally you can, for certain jobs, especially here in Canada and in other parts of the world, you can hire at someone at 14 years old. I started working for payment at a, when did I have my first, I was hired for my first retail job when I was, okay, it was the end of 2019. It was in August. Okay, so I was 14, turning 15. So yeah, I was hired at 14 years old. And I was physically capable to do much of the work at that age. But there's also, see, this is the tricky thing. Because with certain jobs, and this is again where it could come in with the whole double standard thing that I was talking about earlier, that even though it's similar, it may operate differently in some capacity, which is different in my book than something being blatantly contradicting, which is where you are dictating that something works this way, or you're preaching or saying that something works this way, this certain way, and that, or that you believe this thing, you believe in this thing and that you should act upon something this way, or that it works this way, so therefore I'm going to follow it, but then completely go against it. That would be contradicting. Or at the very least, like doing something, you're doing something that, or for example, if you're not giving a reason for what you're doing and you're just plainly going against something that you do for one other thing without any like reasoning for it, or like, yeah, or even if it's like flawed reasoning, just no reasoning whatsoever, and you're completely going against what you typically do for one thing that's similar to this other thing that you're doing the opposite for, then that is contradicting, in my opinion. I still do say there is a difference between contradiction and just double standards in and of themselves. But anyway, back to my point about child labor laws. Okay, I firmly think children's opinions should count, and their intelligence should be taken into validation, like taken into consideration, and if actually proven to be true, then validated, and the people who are capable legally of making a decision based upon that information with the age that they are at, actually taking their advice and bloody well respecting their intelligence. And again, not just doing it to make themselves look good in the scenario, because that would be commodifying. But see, I'm really struggling with this because, well, I guess tonight I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about a lot of stuff for a long time. So, God. Guess it's a combination of my dissociation and my moral issues. Oh, wow, that was... Owie, that was ouch. That felt like I just strained a tendon in my arm. Ow. See, okay, so with child labor laws, there are what I do feel there are certain jobs that, as I've stated before, children, even if they have the intellectual capacity to understand it and have good input to it, that if they really were mature enough mentally, they would know that they should wait, even if in a rare chance that they are physically capable of doing it, but there are plenty of other people older than them that can do it, that they should wait for that age. They can, again, though, them being knowledgeable about that thing or that position and being able to actually work with, not for, I guess, or not doing the actual work, but work with the people who are orchestrating it. Like, it's okay, because right now I'm just actually freshly trying to think of this right now. Like, because I thought about this before, it's just really trying to give it a lot of thought right here regarding child labor laws. Because, well, here's something. Child labor laws, well, here's something where, like, I wouldn't say, like, I think, again, maybe it should depend on the work itself for physical labor. Now, though, if the child was to, say, be brought onto some sort of, I don't know, board for, like, a board meeting for ideas, a child or a teenager, for ideas, or if they're actually, like, not physically doing the labor, but, as I've said, cognitively coming up with solutions to try and aid, well, the business of whatever it is, or trying to get their input in, I feel that they should actually be paid for that. Like, not, obviously, if someone just gives you an idea, like, and they're not in the business, I don't think you can, well, I mean, yes, now with how in the capitalist world you can pay them. Even in what I would view to be a better communist world, if you acted more libertarianly, that, okay, I've never said that word before, I don't think, in a more libertarian stance. Thing is, I still say you'd be able to give your wealth to somebody, like, out-of-pocket cash, if it was what's known as a modern form of currency, if it was in that form. But just, like, I believe I talked about this in a bit about it in my fourth Exploring Ottawa video. How there could be implementation of banks only being able to put your earnings into an account that has been, like, actual finance into your account has been authorized and, like, approved to be yours from your employer, if the wealth was being redistributed, so that you don't have, and so that if you are taking money from somewhere else without that being, like, registered in some way, then you wouldn't be able to put it into an account. But you'd still be, even then, you'd still be able to, in my view at least, of it in a more communistic or even socialistic society, be able to keep, like, the on-hand cash or currency. Like, maybe I'll explain that when I'm in a bit more of a better cognitive state right now. But anyway, in regards to child labor laws, it really should, in my opinion, at least logically, the job, I feel, really should depend on the job. Because, like, here's an example of something that could be, or this was part of has been at points before, actually, mainly before I left Toronto, when I feel my morality crisis was really kicking off. I was thinking a lot about, like, child acting in standardized film or in video games and shows and things of the sort. I was thinking about that and the ethics regarding child acting. Because, remember, I saw someone put a question on whatever that site is. It's called Quona, whatever that one where it's like you just put in a question and a bunch of anyone can answer you, basically, who has an account. It's like basically like Wikipedia, but people actually like talk to you, or they can respond to your, like, what your question is. Like, it's entirely centered around questions that might not have like a direct answer, like, from most major internet sources. Anyway, someone posted on there, so in regards to child labor laws, why is it illegal in most countries for a child under the age of, say, 13 to work in a shoemaking factory or work for a retail store or restaurant or whatever other establishment it is, but yet they're legally able to act in a motion picture? And I think I read a bit of what some of the answers were. I forget most of them, but I think I might have actually asked it somewhat, or I might have gone to I might have put it as like brought into a piece of like a conversation I was having with some friends in Toronto. I think their answers were just like, well, it might have just been, well, it's a performative art, but that's not, well, in my opinion, pornography and strip dancing is a performative art. So that's not really a concrete answer. And also there's sex and nudity that I feel very much for certain ages should be allowed to be depicted in some way. Or really, technically, nudity could just be, I feel it can be depicted at any age. As I've said, it's not always sexual. It's not intended always to be sexual, and the artist can't control if someone sadly is, well, encroachingly aroused by it, or aroused by it. But for what the story is trying to tell, or what is trying to be represented. But now, again, not like physically depicting sex at every age. Now, there are stories obviously about sexual assault on children, which I think can be done in a fantastic way, the stories, but you don't have to actually, shouldn't, in my opinion, show the act for that. You can imply it, like heavily imply it, but you shouldn't need to show it. But in terms of just nudity, nudity can represent someone being physically free, or just being more connected with themselves. not in a sexual way. Yeah, so, but anyway, back to the acting piece of it, the laws regarding that, or the ethics behind that of child acting, because it is legally a job, just like acting in and of itself for, like, major studios or anything like that, or just studios in general, or for any sort of art that is being distributed for profit. So this is really, honestly, a tough one. Like, I feel that, yes, I feel children, if they are mentally mature enough, should have the right to participate in art. I don't even think, like, this, like, examples, this, like, me right here, I'm engaging in content creation, right? I'm no longer a child, or I'm no longer under what is considered under the age of adulthood in Canada and much of the world. I'm 18, but I started this channel at 17. I had just turned 17 when I first uploaded the Minecraft videos I made of my underwater and floating cities of Reef and Icarus. But and also another thing I should actually probably interesting to talk about. Just interestingly enough, this actually, a damn slice of cake, the videos that I have on it now, this isn't the first time I've actually tried to start a YouTube channel. I actually had videos that I had uploaded after the Minecraft videos when I was 17 that I made and wanted to just share to this channel. They were all absolute crap, and I was not happy doing them. I thought I wanted to do it I guess I did want to try it out, but at the time one day I got really upset with, like, nothing I was doing was, like, really what I guess wanted to do with it. And I just deleted all of them. And I think I actually, like, got rid of the Minecraft videos and then I re-uploaded them. Because I still had them saved. Because those videos were actually initially meant for, interestingly, funnily enough as well, those videos were actually never originally, like, I was planning on uploading them to YouTube. It's just they weren't initially entirely meant to be for YouTube. I was actually first going to send them to a friend of mine who really likes Minecraft, Minecraft builds and all that. I don't think they're, well, at the time, they weren't very familiar with BioShock, the video game series, but anyway, that's what originally they were for. And I also tried starting a channel back when I was what was it, when I was it was here in Canada. I think in between 8th and 9th grade? I don't know. And then years ago, I had a channel that was just my full name when I was living in Fargo, America, and it was pretty crap from what I remember. I just did movie reviews and video game reviews on it. Actually, that sparked a memory. Funnily enough, again, I had a series on that channel called Exploring Fargo. And it was literally me riding around on my bike, showcasing the city of Fargo. And I went through quite a large number of the districts. Well, mainly stuck to the district that was in the north half. That was literally just called. This was get a load of the creative naming on the Fargo's districts. There was North Fargo, there was East Fargo, there was South Fargo, there was I think one called there was Glenwood, there was I believe there was one that was called just University Village. There was West Fargo, and then there was Northeast Fargo, I believe. Oh, and there was downtown. Yeah, very, very creative naming. I mean, hey, simple. Easy enough to remember, so... Anyway, in regards to what I'm talking about with, like, artistic creation, I feel I was fine enough to do that. I wasn't making profit off of it, even if I was gaining enough traction in terms of subscribers and views to be able to start a partnership with YouTube and be able to actually get monetization off of my videos. Even back when I started, when I started this one, How a Damn Slice of Cake Is right now, I did not want to. I just wanted to keep it as a hobby of mine. So, and even if I did monetize them, if I become flat broke, now with me being in the situation I am, if I become flat broke one day, maybe I'll have to monetize them if they actually do reach a higher traction of, like, views, and if the channel reaches you know what that was. Even if it did reach a higher subscription rate, even if I may have to monetize, like, my channel one day, I wanted to, if I did monetize it, I wanted to redistribute my wealth, like I would have done with my video game writing career, my pornographic film career, and my stock photography career. What I wanted to do with all those. Anyway, I feel that acting is you giving your physical self as a performance for profit. You're giving your physical self to the project, your emotions, your facial expressions, your physical movement, everything. And I feel in that regard, I feel though it should be allowed, if just for, I guess, child safety, the director of the project, or directors, actually, this is if the entertainment project has a director and it's not being headed by the child, if there are ways to actually shoot scenes. Let's do, for example, let's just do a movie. There are ways to shoot scenes where you can have the child
And I think you should actually explain to them what is going on in the scene and like what emotions are supposed to be showing. Otherwise, it's gonna be shitty acting. And I really hate the false praise of child actors who are not good at acting, because that can lead to a lot of detrimental shit. So one of my favorite YouTubers, Your Movie Sucks, Adam, he talked about something similar. Well, he talked about this actually specifically in regards to the actor who played Simba, who voiced Simba in Disney's shitty remake of The Lion King. Basically, how everyone was giving him, a lot of people, now again, people are entitled to their opinions of it, but it was so clear that many people were giving them what I said before and what I'd called it false praise for their performance. And Adam was talking about how he actually thinks that not telling the child your honest opinion on like their performance or like how really terrible they are at acting, like giving them false praise, should be considered a form of child abuse. I have to disagree. I don't think that can be controlled in that sense, really. But yes, I do. Well, socially, yes, I do think it should be okay. Legally, no, but again, socially, yes, I think he would be right that I think it should be considered a form of like emotional abuse on the child. Because he was talking about how this kid, in his prediction, is going to grow up to not get any like acting roles at all, because no one will actually teach them how to convey emotion well in a performance, and they will get no roles, fall out of favor in the limelight of Hollywood. They will become severely depressed, or they'll develop egotistical personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, or maybe attention-seeking personality disorder, anything of the sort. Which I can agree with him that yes, much of that leads to those development of those disorders. Anyway, there are ways to shoot scenes where you can tell the child what is going on and have them convey the emotion that you want, but actually not be like, well, you shouldn't even be verbally abusive with. I don't even think it's a good idea to be authoritative in acting in like in direction with an adult. I think my favorite director of all time in terms of art, Stanley Kubrick, who my favorite film of all time is A Clockwork Orange. I haven't seen that movie in maybe a year and a half. I really love its examination of human morality, and human nature, in a sense. Its examination of human violence and what is basically too far of a punishment for those who have committed heinous acts. With the main character, Alex DeLarge, played by Malcolm McDowell. In my opinion, his best performance he's ever given. That was his second film role, I believe. His first film was If. Never have seen it, but I would like to. Basically, examination of how far is too far with punishment of someone like Alex DeLarge, who is a serial rapist and a very much an aggressive, manic psychopath. What is ethical in terms of what would be an ethical form of criminal rehabilitation? In context to the film A Clockwork Orange, I say rehabilitation. In my opinion, if we're speaking from my logical standpoint, the method of rehabilitation there is
atrocious. The Lodovico experiment. Anyway, but you can shoot. Oh no! What I was gonna say with that, actually, before I get on to another thing, Stanley Kubrick, my all-time favorite director. As a person, he was okay, in my opinion. He well, you could honestly be a genuinely compassionate and like encouraging guy in terms of his actors. He could also, though, very much be a overly agitated, overly aggressive, authoritative dickhead, who very much could have an ego the size of the moon, and well, yeah, and also, though this is, I'm glad that he did this. From what I know, he later apologized to Shelley Duvall, who played Wendy in the film The Shining, which is probably, if any of my generation is watching this, I don't want to label, like, again, this would be an ageist thing that I've faced, that, like, just because you're a part of a generation doesn't mean you don't know about artistic creation from the past. Like, fucking hell, I've seen the original Birth of a Nation. I've seen the 1916's Birth of a Nation. In my opinion, it wasn't a great film. Well, in terms of, like, production value and stuff, it was, well, it was 1916, so it wasn't anything high value. In terms of the message of the story, or what it was trying to convey, well, I'm for your right to convey that message, logically. It's quite fucking racist, very racist. Basically, the film tried to make a defense for the Confederacy of the American Civil War, which, well, and there was loads of blackface. It was just blatant. What the fuck was that? That was, I think, a leaf. Okay. There's an alleyway right there. I don't know if the camera heard that, but I heard what sounded like scuttering over there, or something scurrying across the pavement. Maybe it was like a field mouse or something. Anyway, how Stanley... Honestly. Anyway. How Stanley Kubrick treated Shelley Duvall on the set of The Shining was awful. He was overly angry at her. He was overly aggressive. He was overly demanding of her all the time. He caused her so much stress. Like, he made her do so many... her crying in that film. Props to her acting. She was a phenomenal actress in that film, in my opinion. I know nothing about her as a person, for the most part. But either way, he was just getting so angry with her. He made her do multiple takes. Most of her crying in that film is her actual... She's crying. She's actually crying. It's not acting, because he pushed her so far to the brink of just mental stress. She was having so many panic attacks on that set, and he went... well, I guess in terms of our tendencies, he gained some more leaning traits. Maybe he had leaning traits of sociopathy, because he just did not seem to care. But he later did actually apologize to her. I don't even think he was a very private man, so it might have even been private what he did. I don't think it was done publicly, from what I've seen. But he did later apologize, and I think she did forgive him. But either way, I still think that was terrible of him to do. But what I'm saying is, there are ways to not be like Kubrick in terms of your directing methods. um, and so you don't have to, like, here's an example in terms of child, because there are films that depict very dark and harsh scenarios that have children in them, which I think they absolutely should, because there's a lot of very unpleasant and disturbing shit that happens, especially to children, or that involves children in real life. With my logical philosophy towards art is making a story just realistic enough so that the audience can relate to it, or the viewer can relate to it, but at the same time making it just fictional enough to where you can escape into it. At least that's what I believe with it. But, like, for example, you can do something like this. One of my other favorite films of all time, at least as of current, is the Babadook, which I think is a fantastic horror film. It's directed by oh god, don't let me forget her name right now. Jennifer Kent. It's directed by Jennifer Kent. She's only made 2 major films as of right now, The Babadook and The Nightingale. I've yet to see The Nightingale. It is very disturbing, I hear. It has a lot of gratuitous rape scenes in it. Anyway, that was her first film, The Babadook, and it featured the story centers around a mother and her son basically being stalked by the monster, the Babadook, when really, spoiler alert for it, it's just, spoiler alert for the Babadook, the monster is just an allegory for her own spiral into excessive stress and depression, and basically her spiral into a real mental breakdown. By the way, I'd actually like to say this quick. I might elaborate more on this in a different video. To mainly people of my generation, I know a lot of people like to say, I've talked about how in psychology there are certain terms used in just everyday slang that are used as that are mainly used as slurs that just to mean something very awful, when that's not actually the definition of them. Like, say, psycho is a slur against sociopaths. Schizo can be a slur against schizophrenics. What's another one? Okay, well, you get saying someone is psychotic for them being, like, aggressive towards it, like being verbally aggressive towards you, or even physically aggressive. That's not what psychosis is, at all. But one thing that a lot of people attribute to someone having what I would consider to be a mental freak out, or just someone having an emotional outburst, in terms of, like, being heavily upset and in distress and crying and things like that. There are a lot of people, especially in my generation, who label that as a mental breakdown. I'm telling you right now, from psychology, that is not what a mental breakdown is. A mental breakdown, at least in terms of, like, actual textbook definition, or at least technically it's being disputed whether that should be something like of this regard should be called a mental breakdown anymore. But just for the terms of this, I will be calling it that. Basically, it's the closest, the best way I could describe it. It's the closest you will come to going insane without actually going insane. Clinically insane, like severely delusional, or in severe well, your thought process is severely disrupted. Anyway, that was my quick little PSA there. You have the right to say it as a slur, as far as I'm concerned, but I'm just saying, why don't you not be a douche? For no reason. Anyway, her film, The Babadook, Jennifer Kent's film, The Babadook, there's a scene where the mother character, she is screaming, being verbally aggressive, and being very trying to be intimidating to her son, as if that she wants to kill him, basically, is what the context of the scene is. And he's standing there looking horrified. Now, the way, though, that Jennifer Kent shot that was that, because from how the camera angles are, it's panning, it's cutting back and forth from, like, the mother would be, like, in this frame, then it would, let me actually do it here, I'll just demonstrate quickly here. The mother would be standing, like, supposed to be in, like, in the shot in front of him, looking down at the camera, and then it would cut like that. It would cut the film, and then it would be child looking up, and it would just be facing towards him, and then it would cut again when she is further screaming, and it would be back to that. I think you get the point of what I'm trying to say. Now, that was in her ethical, in line with her morals, but because what she said in an interview was that they shot the scene like that because she regards that as if they actually had God, I forget the actress who plays the mother character. She's phenomenal in that film. By the way, it's an Australian film. I should have probably mentioned that, or maybe I shouldn't have. But so it's not, well, in context of that, it's not really well known as it could be in Canada or just North America in general, as well known as, say, in Australia. But they shot it like that because, in her regard, if they had just had it be one frame, like with, say, I'm the mother and the child is right here, and it was showing both of us, just in the same, at the set at the same time, and her screaming the vulgarities that she was at him with the age that the child actor was, in her regard, she would count that as child abuse. Which, yeah, she has, I absolutely do think that could regard as child abuse, in that sense. So, the way they got around that, though, is she was on that set one day, the female lead actress playing the mother, they shot it with her on the set one day, and then with the child the next, and she wasn't there. Which gives the illusion that they're having a conversation, but in reality, it was filmed on each of their scenes, or their shots were filmed, because it's one scene, their shots were filmed at separate times, and they were just relaying to the child actor what was being said to his character, and for him to react in the way that, well, how this character would to being screamed at by the mother character, which is, in my opinion, a fantastic way to ethically, or at least I logically feel ethically, coincide with not potentially traumatizing the child on set. A similar thing, I believe, Christopher Nolan did on the set of The Dark Knight, with, well, when Harvey Dent is holding Jim Gordon's family hostage. Obviously, the prop gun was there, but Aaron Eckhart, the actor who plays Harvey Dent, wasn't like leering at him like, I'm gonna murder your kids, Jim. I'm gonna make you pay for what he did to me. Like, that sort of thing. But
that still doesn't answer the question of the actual job occupation of it, being paid for it, being a child on like a film set, in being a player in the actual production. Right now, again, this is really perturbing me the most. Right now, I will say I'm gonna think. You know what? I'm gonna think about this more. Usually with these, I provide what I would logically feel to be my answer to them if I had one. But right now, I'm gonna say I don't know. I don't really know what the concrete. There might not even. This might be another thing where, for as the most benefit it can be, with everything I feel logically in society, for as better as it can become, nothing can be 100% perfect. This, though, in this matter, it might be the most iffy in terms of, like, it might be the most, like, something that has to be assessed situationally. So, I'll just say for now, I don't know. Maybe when I'm in a bit of a clearer headspace, I can actually give a more clear answer. But, well, as clear as it can be with me going through my existential and morality crisis. So, that's the best I got right now. I don't know what the answer would be in terms of regarding for child labor laws in that stance. For those other jobs. I still firmly feel that it, in some capacity, should not legally be allowed for something like, well, the sex work industry. I feel that 18 is, logically in my mind, a well enough age where you can start that. In terms of your physical, most people's physical maturing, and for that pizza delivery car is driving with its trunk open and it all fell. Do you want a hand there, friend? Hold on. Yeah, so I just went over there and picked up the empty pizza boxes that fell out of the trunk of that car. Apparently the employee was just going around to throw it into the recycling bin out back of the plaza. And I just brought it around to them and they're like, "Oh, thank you so much. I must have dropped that." I was like, "Yeah, you dropped that. You're welcome. And no problem. Okay, goodbye." That was that. Anyway, now I'm actually contemplating, there's a little shady dark patch over there with some tree brush. I'm wondering if I should just sleep there tonight. I was going to walk some ways down Innis Road to try and get back into the Orleans district. Actually, funnily enough, I've been noticing on the map of Ottawa recently that Ottawa's geography is kind of weird compared to most cities, not just I've seen in North America, but in other continents too, in other countries. Now I should also say, like, I've been saying, like, about how the whole, and there's a lot of heavy environmentalist work that clearly has gone into the communities around here in Ottawa. But I know that there are many cities, especially in the Middle East and also in many parts of northern and central areas of Africa, West Africa, and also in parts of, I would say, Eastern South America, that there's a lot of, well, there are, like, more agricultural centers, I'd say, in the cities, or there's farms, a lot of, well,
farms that are within city limits, which isn't as common in, say, North America or Europe, or even I'd say most of even like Central and Eastern. Well, the Middle East includes Central Asia. Well, I'd say, I guess, just Eastern Asia mostly, and also Oceania. Where I was going with that, my point was, oh yes, but in terms of like the geographical layout of Ottawa, it's a bit odd. I'm noticing that like some of the more major districts, okay, so you have the more like center districts, like there's the downtown area. There's where I walked through last night was Old East Ottawa district. Walked by New Edinburgh through Gloucester, and yeah, I can't remember the names of the rest. I don't even know. And then, okay, then this district, this is more center area. This is closer to Orleans, but I don't know what the name of this district is still. Anyway, but I've noticed that to get to some of the more major, like, districts that are at least more, that are bigger in size, such as, or that are away from the center region, more so like Orleans, Canada, Nepean, well, not somewhat of Nepean, and I think it's called Belhaven or Bethaven. I think it's Belhaven, southern Ottawa. There's a lot of areas that are like almost go for, there's like heavy patches of like woodland area, or just forests, almost as if it's going into a countryside area. And there's a lot more research facilities in those areas, or at least there's a lot more what look to be some form of research centers, or maybe agriculturalist work of some kind, but not in the likes of like traditional North American farming. It's odd. Like if you look on the map, you have the center area of Ottawa, you have the district of Canada, which is the farthest western district. Well, and then above that is what's called South March, I believe, and that's well, northwestern Ottawa. Then you have what I think is called Belhaven, which is the southern part of Ottawa, which is cut off mainly from the center, again by forest, or more green patches, open green patches of just more open landscape, I guess I would say. Same with Canada, same with some parts, I think, of Nepean, from looking at a map, and same with Orleans, which I just find odd. I've never actually seen that in a lot of cities, especially at the very least in North America, on a map at least, just geographically looking at like a satellite image from the air. Never seen that. Never even noticed that about Ottawa when I did look at it on the map in all my years of researching geography. Well, I will say, granted, I've never, for as much as I love researching culture and geography, I never fully researched a lot about Ottawa. I knew that obviously I knew that it was our capital city in Canada, and that still not completely clear on whether it's the 5th largest city in Canada, but I knew certain things about the culture, having, I guess, more European architecture added to it. There was a bit more, and I've noticed as well, I knew before that in certain areas there's a bit more prevalence on indigenous communities, certain areas. I've seen it in parts around here. What are you? What are you moving over? Where'd you go? You behind the car? You gonna come out? I saw a rather large cat-looking thing. Yep. What the hell are you? If I go over to you, you better not You better not just spring around and friggin' attack me. I don't want to actually go too close to you. But then again, you heading that direction is making me reconsider sleeping over there, even with propping up the tent. I'm gonna zoom out a bit. That's really a lot of poor focus. What are you just a... What are you? Are you a cat? Or are you... I do not know what you are. You just a stray cat, or are you... I really should not be doing this. Oh, I think it is just a stray cat. Hey. Oh my god. Oh. Whoa. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to... Sorry. I feel really bad now. I'm really actually sorry. I didn't want to scare you. I mean, you kind of were headed in that direction anyway, but... Well, have a good night. Okay. That was... Its face was, half shaded a different color, it seemed. Couldn't fully tell. Yeah, it's just walking back this way into the parking lot. Or is it continuing that? I'm not gonna keep waiting around here to find out. Well, I think my plans of sleeping there have changed. But, anyway. So, yeah, the geographical layout of Ottawa is very strange. It's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. It's very odd the way it's spaced out. I really want to explore the areas that do have more of a prevalence on Indigenous culture. Again, I've seen some of it around here. Not a whole... I mean, most of Canada's name schemes for its cities do have some Indigenous roots in it, like Mississauga, Oshawa, Ottawa. Technically Quebec City, because Quebec is technically comes from an Indigenous term. Saskatoon, I believe Regina might be one. Burnaby, Iqaluit, yeah, those are the like. Or the other two other major settlements in Nunavut, Aravad, or Rankin. But anyway, or I believe Rankin is an Indigenous name. No, I think it is. Maybe, I might be wrong about that one. Anyway. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say for that. I gotta piss. And then I'm gonna find where to sleep tonight. Whether I start walking in that direction, just eastbound towards Orleans, I don't know. Or maybe I'll try and find somewhere around here. Yeah, oh, I guess what I didn't fully mention for what I'll be doing coming back to Nuden, the Nuden strip club, on Friday or sometime this weekend, is because I gotta make a new resume because I don't have any, and everywhere I ask like for a possible job option, well, they still ask for a resume. I say I can give references and things like that for certain things, but, well, I'm just gonna have to make a new one, because I used up all mine that I had on hand when I was out in the countryside
staying in Crow's Landing. So, yeah. Just come back to here, drop off my resume, or, well, I actually want to try and speak to the managers about it. Yeah, and see about becoming a stripper performer, or a waiter, or a chef if I have to in there, or hell, if they need a janitor even, or all of them at certain intervals if they want. I'll see. But anyway, see you around. Don't give me that frown. Go shove it underground. And then go eat a piece of pound cake before I punch you in your face. Okay, I'm done rhyming. I'm done. I don't know what I attempted to do there. Okay, bye-bye. Well, that tried to hit the stop button too friggin'